good evening, wherever you're viewing from. This is Laura Thompson, your friendly, fabulous, feisty, fierce, and phenomenal CEO and creator of TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach, and you're tuned into the coffee break. And we have an exciting guest today. We're going to have a one-on-one with Commissioner Tommy Calvert. How you doing, Commissioner?
Blessed and highly favored, feeling great. It's been a long day, but always happy and excited to talk to you and your audience.
Wow, well, thank you for joining us. I'm just gonna, I'm a little partial to the commissioner because I've watched him grow up as many of us have in this community. And
Thanks for the spankings.
yeah, I know. And he's always been the same, always professional, always polite, always caring about the community and the people in the community. So, he's had a wealth of experience. He's been working with the community since he was probably knee high to a duck. So
Very true. Very true. Not an exaggeration.
it's not. And sometimes people think that his age has something to do with his experience, but it really doesn't. Most people don't have as much experience as him. They don't have 33 years of experience like the commissioner does. So welcome. Thank you.
Honored, and excited about our conversation tonight.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, why you do it, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Well, of course, born and raised in San Antonio at the top of Freedom Bridge, just off of MLK, a block in, little pink house on the corner, Jarbet, and Upland there, and was raised in between when my folks divorced, but between the east side off of the near in Willow Woods, Meadowview North, and then of course my mother was off of Perrin Vital. Grandma was on West French over by San Antonio College. We were on the poor side. We didn't have one of those mansions, and all of those are kind of quadrants of the precinct, and so feel like a homeboy in every quadrant, whether it's southeast, northeast, east, or western end of it. My first school was downtown at Central Christian because mom was working at IBM on Main at the time, and of course it was also close to grandma's house. I'm French, and was blessed to go to MacArthur Park Lutheran, St. Luke's Episcopal, and get a scholarship to go to St. Mary's Hall. From there, I got involved in debate statewide and did Model United Nations, and really got a chance to explore global issues, and won a few competitions, got ranked as one of the top 50 debaters in North America, won the state debate championship twice, and went on to Tufts University, did international relations and economics. They wanted me to take a fourth calculus class for the economics. I said, no, thanks. I understand economics. I don't need a fourth calculus class. And so I dropped that part, kept the international relations with a specialty in global conflict negotiation, peace, and justice.
Wow.
I saw a flyer at Tufts one day that said, come hear a former slave speak. And I did a double take, and I realized it was serious, the flyer. And I heard from a former slave from Mauritania and my predecessor at the American Anti-Slavery Group, Dr. Charles Jacobs. And I was moved. I learned about 27 million people across the world being enslaved. And I thought, if I were enslaved, I'd want somebody to help free me. Wow. So I just asked, how can I help? And I kind of knew, with my father being an organizer, civil rights activist, and a movement builder, I had learned all the solvency, all the movement organizing under his tutelage. He made sure of it. That's what all those meetings were about from the time I was knee high to the duck. And I knew that I could put organization behind the modern day abolitionist movement and the anti-trafficking movement and the movement to free Sudan and make it a democratic, free country. And I was right. I ended up helping to organize students, professors across Massachusetts in a divestment campaign against the nation's largest teachers pension fund, TIAA-CREF. A lot of people have heard of TIAA. And at the time, it was a divestment campaign against Talisman Energy, a Canadian company that had allowed the dictatorship in Sudan to borrow airstrips, which they used to bomb blacks who lived on oil-rich land, and they gave Jeeps with
Wow.
machine guns mounted on them, and those Jeeps, they come and just mow the villagers down. And it wasn't really known. This is like 1999. This is not really, I mean, there's no electricity in Sudan. There's no roads in Sudan. So there's no CNN, you can't get the images over there.
Wow.
And so the world largely didn't know about that. Was the bloodiest civil war in the 20th century. Over 2.5 million people died there.
Wow.
And so I was this wily freshman going into my sophomore year, and I had told Dr. Jacobs that I was going to run for the board of trustees of Tufts. And at the time, there had never been a sophomore ever elected, but I was the youngest student ever elected to the board of trustees at 19. And I got on the appropriate, as God would have his hand in it, I got on the administration and finance committee.
Wow.
So when we're talking about pension funds, I was on the right committee. And at the time, as the good Lord's hand would have it, my university president was two important things. He was the president of the Association of College and University Presidents, which meant he had a lot of power with the nation's largest teachers' pension fund. And he was a former president of the University of Michigan, which was the first college to divest from South Africa during apartheid. So we had this, as the stars would align, this natural historical ally who had a lot of juice with the nation's largest teachers' pension fund, and a student, a young 19-year-old radical who he couldn't avoid because I sat on the board of trustees.
Wow.
And so I remember sending an email, subject line, Tufts complicity in slavery. And this is like 1999, 2000. They must have thought I was crazy, right? They're like, what is this kid talking about? Because nobody had heard about slavery back then, right? So I brought, finally, I asked for a meeting with the president. It was addressed to the president, Dr. DiBiagio, great guy, love Dr. DiBiagio. And we sat down, and I wanted to have, his dad would teach me, he's like, you never go into these kind of negotiations alone. You need witnesses, you need, that, and the other. So he wanted to meet with me one-on-one, and I wanted Dr. Jacobs and these guys to be in the room so they could be witnesses to whatever we talked about. But he finally, and so that's when the associate director, Jesse Sage, had did his homework. He said, look, we did a little homework on Dr. DiBiagio. He was the first college president to take the University of Michigan's investments out of South African companies invested in South Africa. We think you have an ally. Go ahead, you meet with him alone. Like, okay, not what Papa taught me, but I'll go do it. And so I went there and I gave him documents from Human Rights Watch, the Amnesty International, our own State Department, showing the genocide of Black Africans who were Christian and animist. Wow. And at the conclusion of my presentation, he said, I know the CEO of TIAA-CREF. I said, you do? He said, yeah, I know him. His name is Tom Biggs. His name was Mr. Biggs. I feel like I'm in a Ronald Isley.
I know, right?
He said, what do you want me to tell him? I said, well, tell him to drop the stock, because the liability of what this company is doing is going to end up, being bad for shareholders, to be perfectly honest.
At 19.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
So he called Mr. Biggs that night. The next day, the stock was dropped. We won the campaign. I was on ABC World News, the Canadian National Post. I was in the papers in China, all over the world.
And here.
Yeah.
I was saying, what is Tommy doing?
So, from that, I ended up, that was kind of like my second job out of college. I ran the American Anti-Slavery Group. I helped to pass the Sudan Peace Act, which gave peace to the people who've been in the war in South Sudan. And so I helped create two of the world's newest countries through my anti-slavery work. One being South Sudan, and then the other, I worked with Charlie Rangel out of New York. I met him at Riverside Church in New York, very famous Riverside Church in New York. We both were speaking there. He was chairman of the tax committee, Ways and Means. And I had just gone to Burma in Southeast Asia and documented forced labor, the dictatorship. It's a military dictatorship that had forced its own people to build oil pipelines for an oil company called Unocal. Wow. And so Congressman Rangel invited me to Congress to testify on my findings. And I added sanctions. I requested sanctions. We got the sanctions. And within a year, the military dictatorship was gone. We passed the Burmese Freedom and Democracy Act,
Wow.
and Myanmar became Burma, and the Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi was freed from house arrest. So I'm very proud that I had a role from right off of MLK at the top of Freedom Bridge in
Wow.
the freedom movement of people around the world.
Wow, that's awesome. And then you ran, how old were you? I think you ran for Congress too,
Yeah.
didn't you? How old were you then?
I was about, when the race started, I was 25. By the time it stopped, I was 26.
Wow, wow. So you are tuned into the coffee break on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with the global reach, and we're here with the phenomenal Commissioner Tommy Calvert. And he just told a story that you would think someone about like 60 or 70 years old would tell, that all of that experience and wisdom. And you were global, back before the 2000s. So that's
Straight out
before
of
the
college.
tweakers.
I was using my degree straight out of college, which a lot of people don't get ever use a degree. I was using
Right. Wow. That is phenomenal.
and,
So,
and by extension, I was using my calling, right? I was using, I think God put a calling on my life to help people. And so to be a change agent and to empower people about where the change needs to happen, to be able to help people see clearer when people are oppressed.
but I could see you walk in the room and I said, he's just so smart. It's just something about him. He's just a gifted young man. Well, we have someone waiting in the waiting room.
Super.
Her name is Val Calvert.
Uh-oh, I didn't know this was coming down. Hey, Mom.
Let me see if I can bring her in. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. Now this is now I'm going to have to, we have makeup to keep the blush from coming through.
Right. So I think she might be just going to be hanging out there.
Looks like she's connecting the audio.
Okay. So while she's connecting though, so you're I know you're involved in a lot of projects. I know when you first started running for commissioner, you had a plan, a master plan. And to me, you're one of the few people running for office that actually had the plan and they're working through the plan. And so I know that you had a housing project that you talked about before. And
Sure. It's still moving forward. I haven't given up, and it's needed now more than ever. Let me just say that I can't take all the credit for the ideas that came forward. When I campaigned, I personally walked 15,000 doorsteps in precinct 4.
Wow.
And I surveyed people, and I asked them, what are your top 3 issues with what's going on in your neighborhood, your community, your family, your country? About half the people would say, I'm good. Other half would have they would give it to me. And then another half would have the solution. They had really great solutions. So I want to credit the people of Precinct 4 with the fact that you empowered me with the solutions. And I just kept those notes from block walking. And after the campaign, well, many times I addressed the things right on your doorstep, and you all know that. But other times we went back through the whole. It was more than 50. It was more than just my sheets. We went through all of my team's sheets because they all were taking surveys, and we made sure that we followed through on every single thing, everything. And so I don't know that. I mean, I've worked at the council, state, and congressional level. I don't think I've met a candidate who actually did that. But that's my success, hitting the ground running and getting things done, is because 1, you gave me the problems. And 2, a lot of you gave me solutions, and we just followed through, and bureaucrats came to understand I'm the real deal, that no matter how much they try to shuck and jive and make excuses and political jealousy and roadblocks get in the way, that I don't quit and I don't forget, and I just keep pounding the stone.
Wow. And so some of the projects are starting to come into fruition for housing. Could you tell us about those?
So, of course, I am the person who came up with the idea that San Antonio needed a housing fund. San Antonio has only now 51% of its citizens own a home, and we all know that owning a home is the American dream. It's the way that we create wealth and pass on wealth. And African Americans have 20 times less wealth than whites. Hispanics have 18 times less wealth than whites. And homeownership is an important part of generational wealth, and also easing tensions within families, and easing just needs within families. Because nowadays, rent, to have a nice apartment, you almost get in rent bondage because you can't afford to save the 3.5% to 30% of bank needs for a down payment, because you want to be in a nice apartment. In order to do that, you're paying premium pricing, and most folks just can't afford it. So I'm all about two things. One, helping to rehab your existing properties, because the most affordable home is the one you got right now. And it pains me that a lot of folks who have endured the crime and blight in the inner city, as gentrification happens, so they don't get to enjoy the benefits of new amenities and things that are coming. They should be able to rehab, stay, and not be taxed out of their home because of property taxes. And then I believe that we can work to create housing apartments where folks can save. And so we got some of that done. I proposed this to Mayor Taylor, I guess, before probably around 2016, 2017, and the city put in $20 million. I always believe that the city and county should be working towards a $100 million housing bond, and I'm going to fight for that coming up in this November election. And I think that the community is really going to demand it, because so many people have become homeless. So many people have had hardships and receive. Literally, the city alone, $170 million in rental assistance, and the county tens of millions as well. So people need the security of a home. There's a lot of shenanigans going on with property owners, making things harder for people in the pandemic than they should. So let's stop putting a Band-Aid on this solution, San Antonio, and let's catch up. Austin's about to do $300 million for affordable housing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I feel we should be doing 100 million. And if the city did 50 and the county did 50, to me, it's a drop in the bucket. We should each be doing 100 and 100. But at least we get started with some real money to build single family homes, allow people to get into apartments where they can really save. And how do we do that? You're going to have to give, like I said, either property owner rehab money, and or you're going to have to look at subsidizing the cost of construction so that the rent can be lower. And that way you hold the property owner to lower rents for 15 years or 30 years, whatever the mortgage is. And you make those rents only adjust, with cost of living adjustments. So I'm proud to say, a lot of people don't know it, but that first 20 million, it wasn't designed the way I wanted it. It was bureaucratic, and in some ways it was designed, I think, to fail, but it passed with 69%. Wow. And I told people, let's go back in 5 years, which is coming up this year, and let's revise it. And so you actually have on your ballot right now in the municipal election a ballot measure to expand the ability of the city council to do housing now. And so that's Proposition A.
Okay.
Right now. So I have made change. They don't often give me credit for it, but it would not have happened if I hadn't been pitching.
That's right. And we know it. You heard it first on TV. So, like we're kind of coming to the end, or maybe a safer spot, like for the pandemic. But and the moratorium, the moratorium, is that the way you pronounce it? Is ending in June. So how do you think that's going to affect the housing market or affect?
It's going to be a lot of homeless folks that are going to be on the streets. We've had over 2,000 additional folks become homeless. An increasing amount of them are African Americans, a disproportionate amount of African Americans, and the largest segment is 50 plus. And so It's a terrible thing that you have a silver tsunami. But let me tell you what I'm doing to help protect people. I allocated $4 million for the first Housing First project in San Antonio, Bexar County history. It's going to be on Dietrich Road. What does that mean? We're going to give tiny homes, apartments, and RVs to folks who are experiencing homelessness. 205 of them.
Wow.
So that's going to take hundreds of people off the street. Now, I'm not done. I'm going to try, even though I've given 4, I'm going to try to get another 5 to 7.5 million to 8 million. It's a $26 million total project. So I'm working to try to fight the bureaucracy to get the money, because frankly, Haven for Hope has kind of gotten a bad brand with a lot of folks who are experiencing homelessness. On the February freeze, I was on the streets talking to a homeless gentleman, and I said, hey, would you, it's going to be freezing cold. Would you like to go to Haven? He said, no, sir, I don't want to go to Haven, because last night they just gave us sheets for blankets, or gave somebody, he didn't go there, but he had heard they gave some other folks sheets for blankets, and 4 people died.
Wow.
They have silly rules, like they have the Holiday Inn on Cesar Chavez downtown. They have rules like you have to be curfew in by 5 o'clock. Now, many people who are experiencing homelessness are the working poor. So if you work 8 to 5 and you're not there if you get there at 5:30, you can't stay there.
Wow.
So that model is, is a San Diego model that was fine 20 years ago, but it is not the gold standard. It's what I just put money into. Housing First is now what HUD, the federal government, all say cities should be. We're the last major city in Texas to move towards Housing First, and we need to move away from the transitional housing model to the Housing First model, because I'll just give you the private sector's analysis. When I was at a conference, one of my favorite conferences is the National Association of Counties, and they had Milwaukee County doing a seminar with United Healthcare. United Healthcare is the second largest health insurance company in the United States. United Healthcare pays Milwaukee County for a staff person to find people housing, and they even pay the rent for folks. Why? Because their actuaries and their number crunchers determined that for every dollar that United Healthcare invested in someone's housing, they saved on treatment, primary care treatment for health ailments, and mental health care treatment.
Wow.
So Housing First is key. And I've been proselytizing. This is part of why I've been proselytizing this, because I knew this moment would come. I always told people when I was pitching the housing bond, I said, let me tell you something. Here's my economics background. I said, looking at the underbelly of San Antonio's economy, it's very soft. If we go through a bad turn, a lot of people are going to suffer. And if we don't start, helping people get into a home, the instability of families is going to be all over town. So this June, expect an explosion. Haven's bracing for it, but Haven's not going to be able to deal with it. Every city district needs to have a place where you can have a couple hundred people get housing first. I'm talking about tiny homes, RVs, apartments. This is what's going to happen at the old Town Twin Theater off of Dietrich Road.
Wow. So how many homes are going to be built over there?
205.
And they're under construction right now, or
about to break ground? I think May 5th, May 11th, something coming up. Yeah, May 5th, first week of May.
So you think some tiny homes will be built, I think, in Virginia?
I don't know. I would have to get the construction timeline. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to be that soon, but it will be an answer within a year. I'm sure we'll have at least probably 100 properties, but we need a lot more. And we have a silver tsunami, and I think part of our housing bond should be targeted at making housing available for folks who are in their golden years and their retirement years.
Wow. So
the good thing is they're voters. So
I know, right?
if you're in that age demographic and you've been struggling to find housing, you got to speak up. You got to let your people, council, commissioners. You ain't got to lobby me. I'm the dude who's pushing, but you got to lobby a lot of others that are leading and not leading on this issue. It's a major issue.
Yeah, that's especially right now. During the pandemic has kind of put a spotlight on a lot of needs.
Absolutely.
And
I think we've been not doing. Boom. On the roof. Yes, ma'am.
So you prophesied all this stuff. So so that's part of, help is on the way.
Yes.
For those that are
Experiencing homelessness.
experiencing displacement of their homes, the homelessness. So help is on the way. So thanks to our great Commissioner Tommy Calvert.
I'm looking out for you even when you don't know it.
He is, he really is. And so then, so COVID-19 has caused another need. So as far as vaccinations and all of those things. And so now there's the vaccinations are available, or the
Yeah.
vaccines are available, and vaccinations are available for the taking for people to get. So what is Bexar County's involvement in the vaccination process?
Well, I think we've been the leaders in doing the vaccine process right. I've heard horror stories coming out of Metro Health where people couldn't get their second vaccine, where they weren't scheduled by Metro Health for their second vaccine. So people come to University at Crossroads and Mount Phillips to make sure that their process is handled right. But, let me just keep it real. I had to fight really hard to get a permanent location on the east side. In fact, we still need it on the northeast, and we still need a permanent location on the southeast. The eastern half of the county was given second-class service to the western half of the county. And behind the scenes, I wasn't happy about it. And, I feel fortunate in that, I got to watch people like Joe Webb. Even growing up, I knew that he wouldn't allow certain things to go before council if there wasn't black, white, and brown represented in the contracts and things that were going on at City Hall.
Wow.
And so I take that same attitude. And we have to speak up. I was that voice behind the scenes, letting the University Health System know I'm not satisfied just with Crossroads. Why do I have to bring? I mean, even if you're like my mother who's in Stone Oak, that's still far for her. I mean. This is a huge county from the south to east and north to west. I mean, it takes you an hour plus to drive all the way across precinct 4 alone.
Wow.
So a lot of folks, because they don't have gas money, because they may be working and the buses may not operate, may not even have bus money. I just thought, we really need to get this open. So I am proud that we finally got St. Philip's College open. I'd like to see it after hours for working people. We need you to go. Just like we have to go to Claude Black and we make sure our votes are cast there to keep that location open. They're already complaining that folks from Stone Oak are coming into the St. Philip's College and not enough East Siders. So if you're watching and you're from San Antonio, I want to encourage you to get your vaccine. I've got my vaccine. I'm doing just fine. My mother is on. She's doing just fine. My stepfather, Reverend Grant, is doing great. My father had the vaccine. In fact, he had the Johnson & Johnson. He's doing just fine. So, I get it. I had hesitancy because, and I was one of those people early on when Trump was developing, I said, hey, Trump at the hell, I ain't getting that, I'm gonna wait a little bit. But I think the difference in things that happened with the syphilis and Tuskegee experiment with African Americans is that in this case, we have the solution. We have the medication to treat COVID and prevent it, or to prevent COVID, I should say. So in this case, not getting it is actually quite a detriment. And like I'm telling you, if people in Stone Oak are coming to the east side to get the vaccine, it's valuable.
It's okay, right?
It's valuable. We haven't grown a third eye, I don't think, right? It's okay.
You need one in the back of your head.
In a psychic sense, I'm in touch with my third eye. So
Wow. So get the vaccine. It's available at St. Philip's College.
yeah, 8 to 5.
And it's my understanding that they've already given out all of the doses for the first shot. And so it's going to be opening back up.
Well, it's open every day. It's open every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
I want you to go get your vaccine. St. Philip's is available, and it's the site, as you said, for you. We worked hard for you to get it, to make it accessible. It's a trusted community institution.
Super exciting. So I wanted to talk to you about one other thing. I know you've had a long day, but um, um, all of these things that I'm talking about are kind of related and have been grossly affected by the pandemic, and the workforce is one of those things. So what are some of the things that you're offering in Precinct 4 in terms of workforce development and training and opportunities for people to get back on their feet?
So the very first thing I'm going to offer you is empowerment about where the economy is heading. So you heard that my pronouncement on housing was prophetic. It was. So let me give you an insight into what's happening in the workforce. And you know this. I mean, if you're paying attention, you'll get what I'm about to say. In the next quarter century or less, even in the next 15 years, 25% to 43% of the jobs we have today are going to be replaced by a computer or robot. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I actually gave an incentive to a company here called Easy Expunctions, and Easy Expunctions is now the number one because it uses a computer system to get your expunction of your criminal record. And frankly, it in some ways probably displaces some lawyers and firms, right? So there's no industry that's immune from this. So I have to empower our people not to be afraid of technology. Like, you've always been somebody who embraces technology and has been trying to be at the cutting edge of that. And you've got to, if I'm going to tell you to transition your career, yeah, there's two areas I'm going to tell you. If you're good with your hands, learn to fix the robot, because remember I said it's going to be replaced by a computer or robot. Okay, like when my mother bought the what do you call it? The vacuum cleaner that cleans it on its own. I said, oh, I said, that's
I just
big.
saw one of those. Yeah, I just saw one of those. Yeah.
She got one before I did, but she worked at IBM, so she's always been advanced. But that's what I'm talking about. That robot that goes in the house and knows the walls and all that. It's just going to get more and more sophisticated, needing people less and less. We debuted the world's first artificial intelligent DJ at KROV. Her name was Denise.
Wow.
And you're going to be able to have news feeds and things like that they don't quite have the human voice perfected yet, but they're going to. You're not even going to know it's a digital machine, right? So us broadcasters, gonna be out some jobs. But you're still going to need to have people who know how to program Denise, the first artificial intelligence. That's where the jobs are. So the very first thing I do is I proselytize. And I do say that by no means should you look down upon being a plumber, electrician, or carpenter, or any of those kind of good paying construction trades. Those are still very much in demand. And so what we've done is my father helped campaign for the workforce that the city of San Antonio passed. Project Quest, we put a lot of money into them, and I look at where their applicants are coming from, because I know the history has not always been good. I think they've improved a lot, but you look at their programs, they're in healthcare, they're in construction, they're in IT. Those are the kinds of things that we want to transition you for. Now look, one of the dirty secrets of San Antonio is that 25% of the adult population here reads at a 5th grade level. So Project Quest has something called Quest Academy. Quest Academy, basically, the average person they see walk through the doors is reading at a 6th grade level. So they'll get you ready to get into training for construction, healthcare, or IT. They know you may need real classes. And then they put the support around you, because we know a lot of people don't have good support. So they'll get you the childcare, they'll get you the bus pass, they'll get you the check-in, how you doing on your homework, tutoring, all those kinds of things. You just need emotional pick you up, counseling. So I really like their program because of the wraparound that so many of our folks need, and want to encourage our folks to take advantage, because we're pouring money into that. But there's a lot of workforce money that's out there right now. And I think Biden is going to end up probably, putting a lot more. I mean, we are about to be in another Franklin Delano Roosevelt era.
Wow. Well, get ready. Those opportunities are available for workforce. There's opportunities available to get your vaccine in the neighborhood. And there's new tiny homes on the horizon coming up on the east side. A bunch of them for displaced families and homeless families. And so
That's pretty breaking news. I don't think a lot of media institutions have reported on that. So you're getting breaking news.
Wow. Well, you heard it first on TV from the commissioner. He's always making sure that our precinct and communities are informed and to let people know what his plans are. And he's always right on point in terms of meeting the needs of people, because we all need housing, we all need work.
Well, yeah, I just want to point out my mother, she may have kind of cut off the internet or whatever, but did you notice she was working in the background?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got it from.
Wow.
She works every day till about midnight, 7 days a week.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. One night working. So mom and dad, they both work a lot, and so do I. But I don't want to even show you my office, all my papers in here. It's really messy.
Well, I can't see it. It looks very nice back here.
But it's a hurricane everywhere else.
I can imagine. So, wow, this has been phenomenal, Commissioner. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know your day's been long, and I won't hold you too much longer, but if you have any final comments that you would like to make, feel free to do it.
Look, we're on the African American Network, and this virus has been weaponized by some who were only too happy to see it spread amongst Hispanics and Blacks. Be smart, keep masking up, get your vaccine, protect your family and yourself, and continue to support those who are supporting the community. And just try to educate yourself, work with your doctor, get peace of mind. It took a little bit for me because I have a pre-existing condition. I have low white blood cell count, and I was a little concerned whether my body could handle it. Talk to my doctor through it. If you don't have a doctor, University Health System, we've got incredible doctors who care. I know Dr. Hawk over at the Robert Hilliard Clinic off of Walters. He's been great. He's counseled my dad and many others. I've seen his care. They really care. So I know a lot of times people don't trust the medical community, but I think we've got a good team. And if you ever have a bad experience, you can call my office. We'll look into it. So that's it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great to see you.
All right, you too. And you've been tuned into the Coffee Break on TAN-TV, the African American Network, where we have a local feel with a global reach. And we've been here with the phenomenal Commissioner Tommy Calvert. Thank you for your time.